Yay! Wahoo! We already have somebody watching. We got 2 people watching. Good morning. Welcome to Social Surge with Fly and Mo. I am live on the gram.
It's the music. I've been working with a lot of music like that, like arts and entertainment, right? So the music part of everything was always really important to me. So I've been using a lot of tools to generate music and create music for some of the content for my clients. And it's just
really,
it's been really fun. The main thing that I'm using is Suno, which I don't hear a lot of people talking about. And
I've never heard of it.
Yeah, and so it is very similar to any other kind of AI like generative tool for creative content. So like in the same way that you can prompt, ChatGPT or Midjourney or Veo or any of these tools, you describe to Suno the kind of music that you would like to generate, and there's all kinds
of
SUNO, yeah. There's all there's all kinds of different things that you can change about it. Like, do you want more or less fidelity to this genre? Like, do you want it to be really weird and experimental, which I tried and personally I love, but I would never ever use it in a video. It's really powerful. You can also generate, music that has vocals and speakers. But for me, a lot of what I've been doing is creating, because one of my clients I'm working with is in Louisiana, and Louisiana has very specific genres and kinds of music, right? And so we're utilizing that in the video, especially just to give it a little bit, just another
flavor.
Yeah, and it's been fun, and also people in Louisiana really care about their music, and so it's an interesting way to fold in some of the personality, and the culture into the content. But one of my favorite things about Suno, especially, is the ability to hybridize or combine genres. And so like I generated a bunch of what we would call like, kind of generic corporate music. Well, this got so off topic right out of the gate, but it's just, whatever. Like
we are talking about content marketing, and this is part of content. Real quick, I want to say hi to Zach Powell, CRE, who joined us on the gram, as well as Regalado Real Estate. Good morning. We are talking about content marketing today on Social Surge. If you just popped in, Fly is talking about a fascinating. Now, I'm gonna have to go play with this because I'm not.
You're gonna love it. Oh my god,
right? Like, can you imagine? Like, so just so that you guys are aware, I sing to Fly and Allison Weiss a lot. I make up little ditties.
Nick.
I make up little ditties, and I leave them voice memos. And hey, where did it go?
I'm going to start sampling them. I'm going to start sampling voice memos and auto-tuning them to my little tracks. But so just real quick to wrap up on Suno, and we'll segue into how this, is linked to content marketing. One of my favorite things about Suno,
Hold on. Dwayne is on the Gram Fam today.
What? That's insane. Dwayne. Yes. Okay. So one of the things you can do is cover music. So, and here's what I mean by that. So like, you have a song and then like somebody will do a cover, but it's in a different style or different genre. So I've been generating music that is more of a typical, like, oh, you would hear like these like optimistic beats in a corporate like background video, and then having it generate something that's familiar in that genre, and then putting down another genre on top of it. So I have a whole playlist of corporate Zydeco.
Yeah. That's awesome.
It's great. It's really lovely. And if you are doing a lot of work with video, or if you're, if you're looking to start a podcast, or you have a podcast, or you just like want to layer in something a little bit more elevated, I would highly recommend checking out Suno, because, one of the things I talk with folks about a lot when they're getting onto video and they're kind of uncomfortable about it. I'm like, a large majority of people, consume their content without having sound on it, which is why we have like the prevalence of captions and all of these things, right? But it is something that you can add the music is something that you can add into your content that is, differentiates and just adds a little bit more flavor.
Personality, absolutely. So good morning, Marcy Manipenny from Denver. Dwayne has joined us over on the gram. He says, what's going on? Robin Hendricks is over there. Andrew J. Comics is also there. We are talking about content marketing. Fly was just telling us about a really cool program that she's using called Suno, S-U-N-O, and you can create music with that. Now, what's fascinating to me about this whole thing is, having come from a background of working in radio, we used to have libraries of royalty-free music, and you would be able to pick the genre, right? Like you wanted heavy rock, or you wanted light classical, or whatever it was, so that you could play. So just because we've gotten off topic, not like we don't, but one of my anniversary gifts, like probably 15 years ago, maybe more, maybe longer than that, from What the Heck, was a drive of 50,000 royalty-free music beds.
Love it.
Right? Like that. I was so excited. People were like, what'd you get for your anniversary? And I was like, oh my gosh, I got this drive with 50,000 pieces of music. And they were like, you don't understand. I work in radio. It's like, this is great. This is amazing. I'm super excited about this. But now you're able to create your own. I'm going to love playing with that app or whatever program it is. I absolutely know I am, just because of the fact that that's right up my alley. And if you can create something that is so unique in particular for whatever piece of content that you're doing, I think that's super valuable, not just to the client, but then also to their target audience. So you were talking about a client in Louisiana, Zydeco, corporate Zydeco. Like,
it's nothing but bangers too. It's nothing but bangers.
I freaking love it. I mean, but that's how you make this more personal for everybody who's involved in the process. So on Tuesday, we said that we were going to talk about content marketing, what it is, and what to do, how to avoid the traps. And we want, obviously, to create content that converts without turning people off. And Fly sent me an entire manifesto yesterday. So
I want to do.
I am going to let her break it down and tell you what content marketing is and how you can do it right.
Okay, so to sort of intro this a little bit, there are two things that I think that would be useful to clarify, or to kind of just sort of like anchor and remind everybody of wherever you are in terms of your marketing journey. Oh, I'm so sorry I said that, but there is an analogy about marketing. There's like a thought about marketing that comes from Alan Dibb's one-page marketing plan, and it's a circus metaphor. Have you heard of this, Mo? Have you seen
No.
it? Okay.
No.
So, because I think that a couple of the misconceptions that people have about content marketing, which is what we're talking about all the time on Social Surge and like at CREI and all this stuff, is that there is a specific way that this space is. Yes, Marcy Moneypenny asked if we'll hear more about software like this at the summit in September, talking about Suno. Yes, CREI Summit is 100% jam-packed with speakers who are going to be, talking about their process, and then also the specific tools that they are utilizing. Yeah, in their tech stack. A couple of exciting things would be, there is all of the programming of the summit is highly practical and tactical. But there is breakout sessions that are specifically designated to like have hands-on elements of like actually producing stuff as a part of them. And then additionally, we also have the Creator Lab, CRE Creator Lab, which is going to be a resource for where you can sign up similar to a very well-known software products customer.
Really smart bar.
Really smart bar. Yes, I don't know. We're kind of weird about saying it, but there's going to be time. There's going to be stuff in the sessions for you to actually get your hands on to work with some of this stuff. People will be talking about what they're using, and then there will be a space, a lab to sign up for an appointment to meet with somebody specifically about like, okay, how do I actually use this thing? And I'll be there, and we'll be there. Hooray!
Megan Ashley will also be there, as well as Isabel Gonsalves. Four of us will be in there, along with some students from College of the Canyons. So we'll have some marketing and some of those students coming and helping out in the Creator Lab, which is going to be great. So if you have questions about using a particular program, bring your laptop, bring your phone, and we will definitely be there. And then just the last little plug for CREI Summit before Fly gets back into content marketing. We actually have Brandon Avedikian is going to be joining. Brandon Avedikian is the owner of Aspire CRE, and then George Pino with Commercial Brokers International will be joining Warren Tingen on X Spaces Live today at 3 p.m. Pacific. That's going to be 6 p.m. Eastern. And they're going to be talking about why they show up to CREI Summit and what they expect to get out of it. So hopefully all of you can be there. Again, Warren Tingen, Brandon Avedikian, and George Pino will be live today. Okay, let's get back to content marketing, what it actually means and why it's important.
Yes, 100%. So, but two of the things that I think that are helpful to clarify when we talk about content marketing, because these spaces were designed and continue to be developed for a very specific kind of like collateral or asset, or like what it is that you're actually posting, right? That are there's a lot of different types of marketing, and what we talk about often is like people are using it this way when it's really meant for this way. And this is why I bring up the circus analogy, which I'll share. The other thing I think is useful is that when we talk about conversions, there's so many different levels of conversions, right? And so when we're talking about conversions, immediately where people always jump to is, oh yeah, it's the sale. Right. Yep. Like it's you've won the listing, you've closed the deal. It's like that, the specific moment of transacting. But in the larger scope, when we look at all of marketing, when we look of all of your marketing ecosystem, your funnels and all of those things like that, there are different levels of conversion within that in terms of like how you're pulling people deeper in, like to transact with you. So, and that's more for a later conversation, maybe another time. So, but the circus analogy for marketing is, it comes from the one-page marketing plan, and it's talking about all the different elements of marketing and linking it to a part of the circus. So the first one is advertising, which is different than marketing. It's a component of marketing, but this is the biggest misstep that I see people making when they're using their LinkedIn and their social media for marketing. They're treating it for advertising, and it's not what it's for. So the analogy says, if the circus is coming to town and you paint a sign saying "Circus at the Showground on Saturday," that's advertising. That's right. Like you putting up, here's my listing, here's my closed deal, right? That is advertising, and it's very different than content marketing. Marketing, and there's more parts of the analogy, but for the sake of time, I'm gonna like skip over some of them. But like promotion, publicity, public relations, sales, those are all parts of the circus. Like, oh, like you're explaining to somebody why they should buy a ticket, and you're helping them through the process and showing them what the value is. Like you're in that point of a transaction. If you put the sign on the back of an elephant and then you walk it through the town, that's promotion. If the elephant walks through the mayor's lawn and tramples it, and it gets put in the news, that's publicity, that's earned media. If the mayor laughs about it and you kind of create some content around that or something, right? Like you get more conversations about the actual event that was publicized, that's public relations, right? And so all of these things are a part of marketing, but marketing is all of it together. When you've planned the whole thing, from putting on the event, like pulling the elephant through town, putting up the signs, managing the PR crisis of all of that, right? If you approach that entirely strategically, that is actually marketing. So marketing in general is a much larger scope of how to approach something, as opposed to those individual components, that's the biggest thing like I love about this analogy, is that advertising is such a teeny part of it. And content marketing specifically, when we think about the different components, the larger scope, how content marketing fits into a larger strategy is that it is the experience that you're creating around the event, right? And so in the context of this analogy, you might think about it like, oh, like it's the ringmaster kind of leading and like building trust and familiarity and like, create like, or having like, it's building the relationship inside of an experience. And I think that would be interesting actually to think about, like in terms of when we talk about the 3 E's of education, entertainment, engaging, like all of those things create an experience of you that you are sharing with people. You're showing them what you're doing. You're inviting them into the process, the experience, your relationships, all of that stuff. And you're doing that strategically to distribute that material, to build trust, to build authority, and create opportunities for relationships. And because for me, the most valuable conversion that can come out of creating content for social media as a part of your marketing plan is that it is leading you to a conversation, and that conversation will eventually lead to a closed deal. Right. Now, that is not to say that you cannot convert off of a specific post, like, oh, here's my listing, or I'm looking for this, or, call me, like whatever it is that you're selling. It's not to say that those things are not important, which we've talked about, the importance of, using narrative driven content to talk about your results and your offerings, right? But the content that you share that communicates the experience of what it's like to work with you, what your values are, all of those things. If you have presence there, when you do have those posts that would lead to a more tangible or like financial conversion, all of those things are supporting that one piece, that advertising. So it's like, if I see the sign for the circus, and I've already experienced the circus, I've seen videos of the circus, or like someone has told me about the circus, or like whatever, like I know what that is. When I see then that there is an opportunity to go to the circus that I already am familiar with, I'm going to be like, oh, okay, cool. I know what that's all about. But if you start there and only have that one little piece of advertising, like, we don't live in an age of Mad Men advertising anymore. Like there's a lot of really excellent advertising that comes out of big brand products and things like that. But I don't see the same level of craft or romanticism in like the that is narrative and rich in all that ways when we think about what Don Draper does, right? We don't see that a lot in the kind of billboard advertising, right? So the landscape of advertising that we live in, I said landscape, is completely and totally different now.
Well, I think we've come to the
point. I'm on a whole thing right now. Go.
No, you're great, but it brought up a point that I wanted. It made me think about something when you're talking about advertising. We've come to a point where we are expecting Super Bowl level advertising for products every single day. Remember how we used to wait for the Super Bowl to see these really badass ads that everybody was talking about? Like, especially if the game was shitty, like we were gonna talk about the ads and how great the ads were, right? But now we've come to a level of expectation that that's what we want from every single brand all the time. So when we're talking about content marketing and we're talking about always providing value, think about your audience and what kind of message you're trying to get out there. Because what you're doing as you're creating this content is you are getting them to understand who you are, who you serve, what your purpose is, but not in a way that it shouldn't be in a way that you're literally saying, this is who I am. This is who I serve. This is my purpose, right? Like that's going to turn.
It's very helpful to know what those things are, because sometimes I ask people those questions and they're like, I'm like, yeah, that's brought like a lot of the overthinking and the obstacles that you experience in trying to write anything. Like, you don't know what those are. It's going to be really hard.
Right. And how do you pare that down into a message that's easily repeatable and, I'm going to make up a word, rememberable.
Memorable.
Remember. It's memorable, but I was thinking rememberable. But so that's a new word. T-shirt.
Exactly. T-shirt. That's exactly it though. Like content marketing is not direct selling. And we know what direct selling looks like a lot when we see people utilizing content marketing for that. This is not This is not MLM land. It's not direct selling. It's content marketing is shaping people's perception, which is very difficult to do for other reasons. If you're treating every piece of content like a Super Bowl ad, this is one of my personal things that I'm working on, is that if you dump all of your time and resources into a single piece of content, there is now, again, with some of the things that change about the algorithms, like some things may have more lifespan than not, but when I see people dumping a lot of resources into doing one landmark thing, I'm like, that's cool. How are you going to do that again and again and again? Because you need to stay at the top of the feed. And so content market, a lot of what we talk about in the kind of content that we see working for people is not a Super Bowl ad every single time. You should obviously care about quality. You should care about and have intentionality around that. But we are trying to create systems for you that are sustainable, that shape the perception that people have of you, that create conversations, because your conversations to sell a building are not going to come from somebody clicking an ad. Like, is that a point of access for someone to learn more about you? Yes. But when did you sell a building on the first time you called someone? Like, it happens. It's crazy, but those are the outliers, right?
Right.
And so content marketing is people driven, it's presence driven, it is sharing an experience of who you are that enriches and supports those other components that you're doing in terms of sales, in terms of advertising, in terms of all of the other parts that go into a full stack marketing strategy. And it's I really was going to try to force a moral, and I can't. I'm stopping myself. So
let's talk about what a good framework would be for creating content marketing, right? So if I'm working with a client, the first thing that I'm doing is we're defining what their content pillars are. What are those buckets that we're going to pull stuff from? I was just talking with somebody who, with a prospect who, his business, capital markets, ended up becoming principal, started buying his own multifamily, and then ended up leaving brokerage, doing his thing where he was doing management. So I'm immediately thinking entrepreneur, investments, these are all lessons, stories, things that we could start teaching right away. He's been on podcasts. Great. That's content, right? I'm already thinking, how are we going to start sharing with how that applies to what he's doing now, which is it's debt and equity, right? So, okay, great. He's also involved in the community. Okay, so we're starting to build this persona of somebody who cares about the community, somebody who understands exactly where these brokers are, because he was telling me in the conversation that he has a lot of people coming up to him and asking him, and he doesn't post a lot. So these are just based off of podcasts and interviews that he's done. Yeah. But it's the question of how did you get started investing, right? How did you get started doing this? And I was like, wow, that's a whole another content pillar that we can work on. And then I want, the next step is, how do we take that content and make sure that we're educating, entertaining, and getting engagement, right? How is that all working together? I think a lot of people think that content marketing is content dumping, and that is not it, right? And we talk about posting with purpose. If you're just posting just to post, it is not providing value. You are creating digital noise, and you are going to get skipped. It's the boy who cried wolf all over again, right? If you just post just to post, people are not going to pay attention. And then all of a sudden you could have a banger of a post that is really impactful, and it does diddly squat because nobody's paying attention to you. You have lost their interest. So define your pillars, map how that works with the 3 E's, and then you're going to batch your content and then repurpose that content. Fly and I talk about, I was just talking about this guy that's been on podcasts. We're going to take all of that content and we're going to break it down into multiple pieces of content. Pretty much, I would say on average, I can probably get 15 to 20 pieces of content out of a 30-minute podcast, right? So that's five shorts, 3 minutes or less. That is taking points from that and creating long form content, no images, no graphics, just long form content, whether it's a belief shifting post, whether it's a value add post, whatever kind of post it is, that's another 5, right? And then we have quote graphics that can go with that, where then we're going to write short form content. Like this is literally a strategy for you that you should probably be writing down. But now we're going to create short form content and we're going to put a graphic with a quote on it. Boom. That's 15 pieces of content from one podcast. That literally for some of you, that could be your entire month's worth of content. So, okay.
Yeah. And so, but again, I think that I this moves fast. This platform moves fast. I saw some post I had done recently and I was like, I don't even remember writing that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you want to know what? Nobody else does either. But right. Like the people who engage with that, like there is a compounding effect of like, they might, I think it's a Maya Angelou quote where it's like, people won't remember what you said, but
they'll remember how you made them feel.
Yeah. Right. That's a real thing. Like I could not quote word for word a recent Bob Knackle post, but I know what that dude is all about. And like, that guy makes people feel something, you know what I mean? And so, not to be trotting out Bob all the time, but you can say that out. You can say this about any of the personalities, the people, the accounts that you're following in this space. Like, tell me, and then also you probably do remember a very specific piece of content. And that, that goes a lot. That's saying a lot for some things, but
you remember more, honestly, you remember more that the pieces of content or the posts that are personal. Like I think about, there was a post from like 2 years ago. It was a prospect I was talking to. We didn't end up working together, but he did take my advice and he wrote a very, very personal piece about his brother who had passed away from a heart attack, or it was something like that. And it was just a reminder for men to get their hearts checked, right? That's all it was. And that post basically for him went viral. And we talked about it later, and he was telling me about how many people dropped into his DMs and said, thank you for the reminder. Or it was stories from women whose husbands that had happened to, or their fathers, or, and it was just like, it was just one post where this is something that's important to him. He's involved in the charities that go along with this, right? He wasn't asking for money. He was just saying, hey, I want you to remember that you need to take care of yourself too. And how that impacted so many people, just one post, right? And you don't have to come up with that. And you don't have to, I don't want you to think that I'm saying that you need to come up with some story or something like that so that you get engagement. No, I'm just saying that you never know how this is going to impact somebody as they, I've had people contact me about a post that I did a while ago where I was talking about what the heck and how like I supported him through his law enforcement career. Like he knew that he could go do his job and not have to worry about what was happening at home because I was the manning the fort. Yes, I had a job. Yes, I was working outside of the house, but like I had the kids. I was doing all the things, and how he was happy to support me now in this business, right? Because I think we had been talking about like how many hours I'm working, yada, yada, yada. And it was just like, no, he was just like, no, I want to support you now. And so that I made a post about that because when you're working with a spouse, when you're working together in a business, sometimes like the communication breaks down, right? And so I'm trying to be very mindful of the fact that we are still communicating, that we're still talking, that we understand. He understands I'm super ADHD. So when I'm hyper focused on a product or a project, he knows that he can't just like demand attention right then and there because then I'm thrown off my game for like 2 hours. Yeah. So all he says is like, when you have a minute, I have something. And I'll be like, okay. And then I'll continue focusing on what I'm doing. And then when I'm done with that, okay, what was it that you wanted? What was it that you wanted us to talk about? But I had people jump into my DMs or like, how do I get a relationship like that? And I'm like, you fight for it. But like, or they were asking me like, how is it working with your husband? I don't think I could work with my spouse.
Sure.
And so we're having those types of conversations. You never know how something that you post is going to impact other people. And so when it comes to content marketing, I want you to think about the impact moment as well, right? It's not just showcasing, your services and your skills, which yes, that's what we want you to do, but we want you to have that impact moment. And not every post it has to be an impact moment, right? That's also not what I'm saying. But sometimes you're going to have a banger of a post. Dwayne says, I love working with my wife. Is she making you say that, Dwayne? Is she making you say that? Just kidding. I enjoy working with my husband too. Sometimes, most of the time. I'm not exactly the easiest person to work with because I do get hyper focused, but let's go back to content marketing. Content marketing is the long game, and you have to think you're building trust today so that when business comes to you tomorrow or in the future, these people already know you, right? Right? So they already know you. They already know what you stand for. There's no surprises. I've been consuming your content. I like you. I think we would get along great. I'm sure Fly gets that a lot. I get that a lot. Like, I've watched your videos, and it's a little freaky for me. Like when I meet people in real life and they're like, I've watched your videos, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry.
I had a conversation with somebody over the phone yesterday who we met in person once, very extremely briefly. We've only ever interacted with each other online. But like in terms of the points of touches, like really no, not a lot of direct back and forth communication. And when we picked up the phone, it was like we just started talking. And that is one of the values of it. I think that I think it can possibly be challenging for people if you have not experienced that to really understand. Like, we can tell you that, of course, but until you experience it for yourself, I can understand why it could be difficult to envision or imagine. And then also, yes, the fact that it does take a lot of time, a lot of exposure. I mean, if you were posting 0 and you have no presence at all and you started, like, that's not going to happen overnight, but for me, the content marketing, again, and I have said this before, is the social media marketing strategy is really just lifting the way that you build relationships in real life and putting it in a new format. And that format is media, right? So it's putting the way that you socialize with people to build business and win business and create relationships and all those things. It's just putting it in a media format and in a way that makes it visible so that people can understand what it's like to work with you, so that when they do pick up the phone, you're ready to have the conversation that will lead to a conversion as a result.
Absolutely. You can't shortcut the relationship. And I think that's what a lot of people think that they can do with well, I mean, think about advertising. So going back to advertising, that's what you're doing, right? You're shortcutting that relationship. And we don't have advertising the way that we used to. And I know I've talked about this before, but you think about Pepsi and Coca-Cola. I remember the Pepsi and Coke wars in the 80s and 90s, right? We don't have that type of advertising anymore. You were either Reebok or Nike. You were either, Levi's or Jordache. That was the name.
There's so many options now. And
right.
that when we talk about, I know we're over time, but like when we talk about the commoditization of content and of services and of products and all of this stuff, like, what is your differentiating factor? Because again, I've said it before, any schmuck can sell a building, but only you can sell the way that you're selling it. But why on earth should I pick you?
Right. What kind of value have you provided me that makes me think that I want to transact with you? So I guess we are running over on time. I want people to audit their last 10 posts. Are the posts about you, or do they provide value?
And a really cool thing that you can do to like shift this is like, maybe we should talk about that on Tuesday.
Okay. So Yes, cliffhanger. So on Tuesday, we will be talking about how to shift your mindset and how to audit your post properly. But I'd like for you guys to go and look at your last 10 posts. Are they self-promotional or are they providing value? This has been Social Surge with Fly and Mo. We are live every Tuesday and Thursday starting at 6 a.m. Pacific, 9 a.m. Eastern. That's the math, right?
I can't believe how early you get up. Okay.
And don't forget, we have Social Surge, Social Mastery VIP. We'd love for you to be in there. That is where we talk about the entire marketing ecosystem. Hold on. Last but not least, you know what? There is an account where his entire thing is memes. And so, yes, that will work.
But how are they? Nick, this is your assignment. Look at your post. Are they memes? That audit them. Send me your findings. We'll talk about it.
Hey, yeah, you know what? We'll do a live audit next Tuesday, Nick.
I double dog dare you. But memes add value. My personal take. Memes add so much value. They create conversation and laughter.
They do. All right, we guys will see you next Tuesday right here on this social channel, wherever you're watching us from. We appreciate you. Have a good week.